What up, what up, what up, what up, what up, what up? Welcome to the BruceCooper podcast. My name is Bruce. Today, I will be talking with my buddy, Alex AKA ActualDangs on Twitch. A little kind of before I go into this episode, we had some issues with my recording software this week. So I had to resort to using a different system. The audio, my mic might sound a little bit different. It is something that I'm working on. I will get the quality up to the highest standard that I can get it. I just, you got to be aware. I'm recording these, talking with people from all over the world. So we are kind of at the mercy of the current tech when it comes to like conference calling and stuff like that. So appreciate your patience. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure you check out Dangs, ActualDangs on Twitch, twitch.tv/ActualDangs. Check him out on Twitter. Make sure you follow him, twitter.com/ActualDangs. Alex is an amazing guy. Grew up in a very kind of unique and awesome situation and household, and I think you're really going to enjoy this one. I did. Keep your ear out for more. If you want to be on, hit me up. A lot of you guys are hitting me up. Thank you so much. Everyone will be on, I promise. And again, thank you so much for listening. Take care of yourselves and enjoy this one. Okay, thank you, and I love you. Could you hear that when he said that?
Yes.
Now recording.
It's amazing.
So for those of you who are just now or who are listening, I might sound a little different. My buddy Alex here, ActualDangs, he might sound a little different. I'm trying a new way of recording these, not because I want to, but because shit hit the fan today and I cannot figure out how to record these like I used to. So here we are. Yeah, I'm here with my good friend Alex, otherwise known as ActualDangs on Twitch.
What's up?
How long have we known each other?
I was just thinking about that. I think I want to say it's got to be close to 2 years, dude, maybe more.
Isn't that weird?
It's very bizarre.
It's weird that it's weird that I know. So I met you, I believe, through Astro Grump.
Yeah, I think he turned me on to you, and then I had been watching you for a bit, and then you were coming to the Bay, and
yeah,
we met you at a bar at midnight.
Yeah, that's right.
And hung out for a few hours.
That was fun. That was Edith was pretty upset because Grump was like, dude, it's half an hour.
Yeah.
And it was half an hour from Marin.
Yeah.
To the Bay. And then once we got into the city, it was a half an hour. And then we get there and it's in a great part of town. and then she was like, I'll drive, so I won't drink. And I'm like, oh babe, no, you don't have to do that. And then I ended up getting pretty drunk. And dude, where even that was a kind of a rough.
I was in the mission, which is, the mission has changed a lot. It's definitely, I would say it looks rougher than it is, but it's, the whole city's changing, it's not, I've only lived in San Francisco or in the area, I should say. I don't even live in the city anymore, but I've been in the city area for 7 years now, and before that I lived in the East Bay, and before that I lived on the East Coast for a while. So
okay, well, all right, so we'll get into that. Yeah, so we've known each other for a couple of years. I met you through through Grump. Yeah, I guess that was an unneeded interruption. I apologize because we were on a good anyway.
No, we're good.
You live in the Bay. So the Bay Area, I feel so for me up in Oregon, my dream would be to live in the Bay.
Mm-hmm.
It would be. Do you love it? Do you hate it?
I grew up here, so I'm definitely biased off the get.
Yeah. But see, I grew up here and I fucking hate that.
Yeah, I mean, let me say this. I think I'm incredibly fortunate to have grown up where I did.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up north in Marin, which is definitely a lot more suburban and pretty privileged, and
Yeah.
it was
Well, that's
nice to get out and get a little perspective. Um, like I went to college on the East Coast, so like when I was in high school, like I wanted nothing more than to get out of the Bay Area, like badly. Like I only looked at schools on the East Coast. Like I was
so you
trying
went
to
to
get
high school on the East Coast?
no college.
College. Oh, right.
In high
Okay.
school when I was looking at colleges, like I
Got
only
it.
was looking at East Coast colleges,
I see.
except for one school down in SoCal. But I was pretty hell bent on getting as far away from California as I could.
Yeah.
Which was great.
Did you do really good in high school?
I was okay. I was an okay student. I wasn't like phenomenal. I have, a fair bit of dyslexia and stuff like that, but I worked really hard. Like I definitely cared more, I would say, about grades in high school. And then, in college, I realized like, oh, grades don't actually matter that much. I'm not going to do a lot of like postgraduate work. So I was like, I just need to I also went to art school for college. So it was like, you're getting grades on drawing instead of a paper. So it was a little different.
Oh, I want to say, so Edith grew up in Marin. She grew up in San Rafael. And
yeah, it's really close to where I grew up.
it seems, and she really cared about her grades in high school. And it seems, so for me, it was like, I grew up in a kind of, everyone always talks down on there to say they grew up in, but like, it's a little bit, we went to like low income schools, and it was kind of like it wasn't like being cool here was like, it's kind of a little bit more for her school. Her being cool at her school was like doing really good. And it's kind of interesting. Like, I don't know, is Marin or San Rafael, like, are the schools really good? Because the schools here,
I mean, yeah, I think the public schools are good. I went to a private like prep school.
I see.
So it was definitely like academics were super focused, and and I was kind of an outlier, honestly. Like, most people were like, wanted to go to Stanford or Harvard or UCLA or Berkeley, or like there was a lot of people that had sort of very serious academic tracks, and then like I wanted to be like an art kid, and like in the school I went to, I was looking at private schools because they had really good art programs. But then when it came time to like apply for college, like I went to the college counselor at my school, and they were just like, because I was like, oh, I'm gonna apply to art schools, and they were just like, we can't help you at all. Like, we don't know anything about this. Like, we're
really
prep. Yeah, because they're a prep school, so like everyone's applying for like the top 10 major sort of liberal arts colleges in the country, and nobody's looking at art schools. So I mean, I had really talented people in my class whose parents basically said they wouldn't, like, we won't pay for your college if you go to art school because you can't get a job doing that.
Yeah.
So it was very strong opinions about that. Thankfully, my parents were very, very supportive of that whole thing from a really early age. But so I kind of had to do the whole figuring out art school, college stuff on my own, because the school, my high school was just like, we don't know what to tell you.
That's really crazy. You're the first person that I think I know or that I've met who has gone to a more serious, like, who's gone to a prep school. I don't know anyone else. Is it like,
I mean, it wasn't like uniforms and it wasn't like that, like like it wasn't like your image of like an East Coast boarding school. It was like very much like a hyper liberal, like I don't know. I mean, definitely very nice and fancy and mind blowing that I've had the opportunity to go there. But
no, I mean, I think that's great.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's incredible.
You are an extremely like well-spoken person, so it worked for what it's. I mean,
I can think. Honestly, I think that's I always attribute my vocabulary to Calvin and Hobbes more than anything else.
Yeah, I've always been fairly embarrassed of my lack of caring about being in school. I mean, I barely made it through high school, it seems like. And I just never I fell in the trap of just like never putting value in my education. And as you get older, you really start to like, you know, part of the reason I'm even doing this, like I have a hard time like structuring conversation. And I've always like really admired people who take even the simplest things. I think it teaches you to take more pride in even simple things,
Right.
like you see it all the time. People who come into Twitch chat and you don't use commas or,
Yeah.
and that's why it's so funny, dude. When you replied with like, are you like,
Oh yeah.
I love that,
Oh yeah. I'm a
um,
holdover from the Nokia text generation.
yeah, yeah.
Everything to shorten a sentence and type it.
So if you're listening, Dangs, I call him Alex. I call him Dangs. He replied to one of my tweets, with like, "Are you going?" or "Are."
Letter R, letter U.
Yeah, yeah. And I replied like, we even wrote like,
I think I misspelled quirky and it changed it to like quickly or something like that.
yeah,
It really
quick
the
or something.
whole tweet just devolved.
Yeah, yeah. Which is just incredibly ironic for somebody who went to a prep school. But anyway,
like I said.
that's funny.
Yeah.
So yeah,
No.
that's cool. Like I said, man, like I've always wanted to move to the Bay. We have talked about it so many times. It's just
It's hard, man.
it's a crisis, dude, because
Oh,
it's
insane.
literally like the best place ever to be at. It's so fun and everything's there, and like it's got so
it's
much
great.
culture.
Yeah, it's definitely great. I think the prices have completely left any sense of reality, and like
Yeah.
it's not it's great, but it's not as great as the cost. Like if I
Right.
didn't have reasons to be here, family, and just the fortune to be where I'm at, like
Yeah.
with our house and everything, like I could, I have friends all the time we have a lot of friends that have left the Bay Area purely because of cost. Like they don't
Yeah.
want to leave, but they just can't afford it anymore, which it sucks. Like it's really sucks to lose, members of the community, and especially in San Francisco, because it's like, I think the irony is that everything that makes San Francisco so rad and makes all these people want to move here those are the people that are getting priced out.
Yeah.
So it's like, everyone, it's sort of this tech boom brought all these people to the city, and they're like, oh, it's so arty and, funky and weird and counterculture and all that stuff that really people associate with San Francisco. But like all this tech money has driven up the housing prices so much that all the funky people that make San Francisco funky are leaving because they just can't afford to live here anymore.
Yeah.
Or they're being, brutally forced out through all kinds of crazy, landlord stuff. And so it's really
It's tragic.
It's tragic and it's contentious right now. I think there's a lot of, like I have friends that work in tech and I know they're good people, but I think there's some real cultural issues on a bigger scale that, there's a clash happening in the city, and it's very, you can really feel it with people, there's sort of
A lot of animosity, maybe.
Yeah. And rightly so, but not rightly placed, maybe,
Yeah.
because I don't blame anyone for working for a tech company. Like shit, like
Sure.
make money, like do well for yourself. Like
Right.
that's great. It's just, I think that the greater sort of focus needs to be on giving back to the city and helping everyone come up instead of kicking everybody out who made San Francisco what it is.
Yeah, I mean, you'd think that the smartest people in these tech in these tech spots, like, you think we'd be smart enough to like work together to come up with a solution, but it seems to be that like it's like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's baffled me. I mean, especially like working in the arts, it's always it blows my mind because like sort of as the arts really rely on philanthropy and wealth. I mean, it's sort of it's a luxury good.
Yeah.
So you kind of need a wealthy class to keep an art community running because they're the ones that can afford to buy the work at the prices that allow the artists to be full-time artists.
Yeah. That's
and
interesting.
then there's just not, it doesn't feel like art is being sold, bought in as much by this younger generation, which is, I don't, for whatever reason, I haven't really figured out why yet still.
Yeah. So you work, well, where are you involved? How are you involved in art currently? Like, what do you do?
Well, I've worked for a museum in the Bay Area, a major museum in the Bay Area for like 10 years now.
Okay.
And before that, I've done art handling on the side privately.
Wow.
I've worked for frame shops. I've been sort of been working in art services since I was in college. Like,
I see.
And so, yeah, it's been my main sort of career for the last decade plus.
Right. So, I mean, so if I understand correctly, we have these, maybe I don't want to be too like, I don't want to segment or anything like that, but like,
Yeah.
we have people that are moving to the area, in acquiring wealth through their jobs, rightfully so. And what's so cool about San Francisco or the Bay Area or these cities where this is happening is that they are quirky and there is a lot of art and there is a lot of culture, but that's not being reinvested back into those communities to keep them that way.
It doesn't seem to be. I mean, I think selectively it is, but it's, I mean, there's a lot of cultural shifts that are happening, I think, in the art world that are factors. I don't think you can just blame it on one thing or another, but certainly just the sheer cost of living in the Bay Area in general, it's gone beyond San Francisco. It's getting wider and wider. I mean, I have colleagues that are commuting from further and further away.
Yeah.
Just because, it's like the radius of cost of living is just ever expanding.
Right. I mean, even like we were pretty much priced out of Portland. I mean, for lack of a better way of putting it. And we went up there a couple of weeks ago and I could not believe, like, I hadn't been up there in maybe 2 years, and the neighborhood that we moved out of is just surrounded by apartment buildings. And and it's absolutely mind-boggling. And that's in Portland, and San Francisco is like 10 times that.
Yeah, the construction is really insane. I mean, they're tearing buildings down left and right, and everything's turning into high-rise condos wherever they can. I mean, there's a lot of building restrictions in San Francisco that limit, especially if you get outside of the downtown, like there's a lot of height restrictions. And so, I mean, that's part of what makes San Francisco, like the housing pricing in San Francisco so high, is that there's a lot of restrictions on how much, like how big of a building you can make. So it really does cap the amount of available houses.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. That's cool. Or that not cool, but makes sense.
It's what makes, like if you go to the avenues or something, like, sort of out in the sunset, like by the beach in the city, like that area, like it has a look to it, it has a feel, and there's a reason that it hasn't changed. And it's because of those restrictions.
Right.
Which is awesome, but it's also why, it feeds rare. That whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, dude, like when we were looking, we were like, Tiburon.
20. Oh no, that's that's like the top.
I was like Tiburon, like that's kind of a shitty car. I wonder, I'm sure it'll be nice and cheap. I was like, oh, $3,700 for a 1-bedroom.
Yeah, no, that's I mean, Marin in general is astronomical.
I think we'll be looking a little further south next time.
You got to go south or east.
East. Yeah. But I mean, interesting. Okay, cool. So yeah, I could go on. I won't talk about the Bay as much as I want to, but I could.
No.
Yeah. So Twitch
Yes.
seems to be kind of the common link, and I don't talk about it enough. So Twitch, what's your Twitch? Everyone has a Twitch story, right? And Twitch is I feel like Twitch is such an impactful kind of, I don't want to say like phenomenon. It's not like it's,
I think it
but
is.
it is kind of, right? Like I get vibes from like the early days of like chat rooms or
Yeah, it's a new form of like media and social interaction at the same time.
Do you know what IRC chat is? Do you remember IRC chat from the back in the day?
Vaguely, yeah.
Yeah, so Twitch uses IRC chat as and it's like core from this is layman's, right? Because I don't fully understand it. So all Twitch basically all Twitch is at its core, take subscriptions and bits and take all that out. At its core, Twitch is just a chat room and a video feed of somebody's webcam and computer.
Yeah, totally.
And how can that bring, I have 1,650 people in my Discord, and every single one of them I've met pretty much through Twitch.
Yeah.
How can, well, okay, let's rewind. What is your Twitch story? Like, how did you end up here on Twitch?
It's a little convoluted. Like I definitely, Grump was a big influencer for me, or like introducer. Before that though, I think my first ever experience with Twitch was my friend Future Pizza.
Okay. Yeah.
Who showed me like like Counter-Strike, competitive Counter-Strike broadcasts.
Yeah.
So not even really like a broadcaster, like an actual competition, like a tournament that was being broadcast with announcers, and like multiple camera feeds of the different players and stuff like that. And but he showed it to me through Twitch, and so I kind of was like, what the fuck is this? This is really weird. Why would
Pizza
people
seems
watch
like one
this?
of those guys. Pizza seems like one of those guys that always has kind of a heads up on something before anyone else.
Yeah. He's always ahead of the curve. He's like my tastemaker advisor. always has been.
I need to hit him up on some like style points and shit.
You absolutely need to. I always do. He's my researcher of all things.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he was showing me this, and I was like sort of watching it, and at the same time being like, this is absolutely stupid. Why would I watch this? And also like watched it for like 3 hours with him, and was just like fixated, and was like, okay, this is bizarre. But that wasn't like a broadcaster. And so I watched that a little bit, but it really didn't stick for me. I was just like, that's a weird thing.
Right.
And then I met Astro through work. He worked at the same place I did for a bit. And just through conversation realized, oh, you were into video games. And this is like before I'd even built a PC or anything. And he was like, oh yeah, I stream. And he was streaming a lot of DayZ at that point. So it was like this double thing of like, I found out about him, I found out about Twitch, and then I also found out about DayZ. Yeah. And like, I was like, I think I was as fascinated by DayZ as I was by Twitch in general. And I like Astro, so like I immediately started hanging out in his channel and talking, and then I think that's where I started to meet people and sort of see the like social value of Twitch. Which I had not, I was still thinking of it as sort of like a esports broadcasting thing.
Right.
And once I realized like, oh, this is like a chat room, just like a hangout with, I mean, it helped that I knew him in real life. So it was sort of like, I already had that connection, but then I started to meet other people, and he put me on to Rob, and he put me on to you. And, I started hanging out in your stream and definitely Rob's. And, like, it was like, I started to realize like, oh, this, like, I can make these same connections with people that I've never met before.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I watched for a while, and in there I built a PC and, started playing games. And even then, like, I remember when I was building a PC, I was like looking, doing specking everything out. And was like, well, I'm never going to stream, so I don't need to like do this or that. Like, yeah. Like I'll never do that.
Right.
And then I honestly don't remember. I mean, it was probably just talking to you and Grump and, like, why not do it? Why not do it? And at the same time, like I mean, coming from an art background, I kind of like school was like amazing for me, and I worked my ass off, and it was like the hardest 4 years of my life by far. I mean, in a really good way.
They should be, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was 4 years that felt like 10 years. Like,
how much of a bummer would it be if it was easy and then you get out and you're like,
yeah, well, that was a cakewalk.
Yeah.
No, you get out still,
and the work is like the hardest. You're like, man.
Yeah, it's still the hardest I've ever worked, honestly.
Yeah.
But so I kind of came out and like I still had some of the energy going, but within a few years I had really burned out, and I really wasn't making art, and I wasn't really doing. I mean, I was doing creative stuff at work, kind of, but I just I sort of was making excuses for myself. So Twitch actually has been sort of a way for me to get back into like a studio practice,
right?
Of just like I being accountable for a thing, like once a week or twice a week, or now it's like 3 times a week, and eventually, like, in the last few months, I've actually started trying to draw on stream, which has been like the next evolution of that. But like, of really actually trying to have my sort of traditional studio practice and using Twitch as a platform to kind of force me to do it. Cause it's, it's hard. Like when you're in school, you have homework and you have a reason to be doing stuff. But when you get out, it's all self-motivation, unless you're getting shows, but I'm not really chasing shows that much. So it's, it's really on me to make me do art.
Right.
And I haven't been able to sort of do that for myself. I mean, I've been doing other stuff. I've gotten into building with wood, and I mean, like learning how to like, fix a house and all that kind of shit. So it's not like I haven't been doing creative things, but at my core, like drawing is, I think, really probably, if you believe that everyone has a gift in this life, like I think drawing probably is my gift. So it's been sort of like something's been missing by not doing it. And Twitch has been an awesome way to like force me to do that. And it's been really fun, and the response has been really good. So it's like, I want to do more of it.
Yeah. I mean, it's super interesting. Like Twitch, I feel I've talked to a lot of people, and Twitch, when I was in high school and even out of high school, I was very involved in like our local music scene and putting on shows and learning to play drums and learning how PA systems work and setting up sound stages and I tried dip my toes in everything. And I have personally learned that, and I've talked about this with Red, that the project, like the idea of having a project, streaming's the least fun part of streaming for me. It's setting it up, and like,
oh yeah, I love all the gadgets and gear.
Yeah, right. It feels
I immediately fell down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, and like Twitch allows you to do that, right? Because like you're starting to do more like art streams, like you're talking about, drawing, and like that's a whole setup, right? Like,
oh yeah,
completely different than gaming.
Oh yeah, I was months of, I mean, thankfully Grump was doing it too, so I was sort of like hitting him up for, okay, what did you use for this? How'd you do that? And it definitely, but yeah, it's I mean, I'm the same way. I was joking with somebody the other day, like my dream job would be to like set up people's like wood shops and studios, like just like figuring out the systems and organizing and making spaces. Like I love trying to figure all that stuff out. So streaming is great for that, because there's always like a way you could be making something better, and like, oh, this could tighten up, or I'm always trying to figure out how I can make things a little bit more crisp.
Yeah, or rearrange your room, or I don't know.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
are you going to start doing more like art streams? Seriously, I would love to purchase. I don't know. I used to do wallets where like I would make a wallet, like somebody would purchase a wallet and I would make it on stream and then ship it to them, so they got to see me make it.
Yeah.
And it was a really cool thing, right? Like it made you feel a little bit more excited to get it. Like, have you considered doing like art streams in that sort of fashion where you basically...
Yeah, I've been thinking about like, again, because I'm not really doing gallery stuff, so it's like
Fuck that, dude. Like, do
it's
your
definitely
own.
something I've been thinking about, like Twitch as a platform for selling art, or like, yeah, I mean, and I don't think I'm there yet in the sense that I'm feel like I'm still just kind of dicking around and getting my motor back into gear and trying to figure out what I really want to do. But I think that is kind of my long-term idea, is to, like, whether it's prints or the real thing, and like if I want to do it, like, I don't know, I haven't quite figured out how I want to, like,
right,
do that. But it's certainly, I think it's an interesting, I think Twitch is a really interesting forum for that, because it is this sort of like platform for exposure. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's certainly, I've never planned on Twitch being like my primary income, but it's
no
really
one
more
ever does, right?
Yeah, it's more just been like a way to get me re-sparked creatively, which it's been doing. So,
Dude, all the time. So like people all the time are like, so like, how do I
like, how to become like rich from this?
People, it's never, the good streamers are the ones who are never like, Twitch is never, I never thought about Twitch as my primary source of income. And it's kind of like, well, if you've wanted Twitch to be your primary source of income from day one, and that's been your focus, then you've already failed.
Right.
Like I mean, it's okay and it's good to be that way, but it'll never, it's every month I'm like, this last month I'm gonna be able to do this full time. Like there's never.
I admire the people that do it full time, honestly. Like I don't think I could do it. Like the sheer commitment is mind boggling to me, honestly.
Yeah.
Like I love and respect it so much, but yeah, it's always been like, I don't know if I could do it. It's like, it's hard work. It's really hard work. I like my union job.
Yeah. I mean, it's
rewarding, I'm sure, as well.
It's the best. It's the most. I feel like I've been on summer break since October 3rd, 2013. I just haven't slept ever. It's like the most fun I've ever had, stressing myself to not be able to sleep at night.
Right. I mean, that's good though. Like, it's good to be that passionate about it,
Yeah.
To be, I think, again, like if you're going to succeed at something like this, you have to really, it has to keep you up at night. It has to make
what
constantly think about how you can make it better. And
idle hands are the devil's playground or something. Like some stupid shit my dad says all the time.
I mean, I think that's the biggest misconception, is like, oh, you just play video games all day. It's like, no, it's an insane amount of work.
Oh yeah. And it's not even like, I'll try to explain it to like my grandmother.
Oh God. Yeah.
And when I explain it, it sounds simpler than it is, like it's I mean, I don't know. It's hard for me to talk about because it makes me feel like I'm bragging, but it's owning a business, and it's having something. And I think it's a constant 24/7 thing. But at the same time, it's not right. It's
right,
hard. It's so hard to explain. Like I don't have to clock in. I don't have to do all that. But I also, my paychecks my income is, I haven't had the same amount. Like the amount of money I make every month has never been the same. Some months it goes up.
That part scares the hell out of me.
Sometimes it goes up, and then you save that for the ones that are down.
Right. Yeah, it's like on-call work. I mean, I did that for years as an art handler. Like I was, I'd be on for 3 months and then off for a month, and you wouldn't really know, like, are they going to call me back, or
Yeah. I imagine it's probably
great. I mean, I miss it sometimes. It's like, oh, I had a month off, like,
yeah.
But it's scary too, because you're like, are they going to call?
Right. And when 100% of your income is 100% of your survival of you surviving is dependent on the generosity of others, 100%.
Yeah.
It becomes, I feel like I have to try to find I feel like I'm constantly trying to find some additional way to add value to myself.
Right.
And if that's putting out a podcast, if that's you know, making things, if that's so on and so forth, you know, what's hard for me is, and this, I don't think I'll ever be a streamer who just streams. And I've had
Right,
people tell
right.
me that they just want me to stream. You do too much. You're too hard to keep up with.
No.
And it's like, I get it, right? But like, I'll never see the value of just, does that make sense? Like, I
Yeah, well, I
feel
think
like,
it's the difference between like being like, you know, like you just like, you know, like being like a ninja or something. Like I just stream this game and I stream it every day and people watch me because I'm good at this game or whatever,
yeah,
you know. I mean, again, and no disparaging that either. That is a whole other level of commitment that blows my mind.
yeah,
But I think see what I see from you, certainly what's kept me, you know, aside from the fact that I just like you as a person, what's kept me invested in streams like yours or Grumps or, you know, I don't know, any number of people that sort of do the variety thing is like the you know, I feel like a good variety streamer, you become the product. You know, it's like the game is just or not a game, or, you know, just looking at YouTube videos, or, you know, at making something, or IRL streaming, or doing a podcast. It's not even on Twitch. Like, you know, you sort of have become the product that we're all buying into.
right.
And I think that's again, like an amazing level of commitment to people, because, you know, you're making your life available to people, which, you know, that's definitely, when I started this whole thing, there was definitely, you know, some trepidation about like, okay, like I'm, you know, it's like I'm putting my face on the internet, and, you know, it's like, you know, like
Sorry,
we take anonymity for
is
granted.
Bruce Cooper. That's not my real name. Yeah.
You know, but still, like you're still, you know, you're putting a lot of yourself on the internet, you know, and that's a huge commitment, I think. And, you know, you're very available for people, which, you know, when you're small, that's not maybe as overwhelming, but as you start to grow and you get more and more people, like it's definitely, it's a big thing.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. There's a lot of, I don't know, like I've looked up to people who do this, and I've definitely like seen the correct way of doing it, and maybe the way I wouldn't do it. And
Right.
And what they never tell you is that like every day is recorded, and I've definitely had bad days recorded.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you know, and like I've definitely had, you know, it's very hard to meet enthusiasm with non-enthusiasm and sound enthusiastic. It's like when somebody reaches out, I will have an amazing stream, and then I'll get a DM that's extremely negative. And it's
Right.
very hard to match that. It's very hard to be properly empathetic, you know, or the opposite, right? Like I'll have
Right.
like this week, man, with my mom,
Yeah.
you know, like going into the streams, like I have to stream, right? Like my phone bill I have to stream. So my mom's in there,
that's really intense.
with a tube down her throat. You know, I haven't talked to her since Tuesday, and it's Friday night.
Yeah.
And we, you know, and doctors are like, well, we have to give her a CAT scan because she's not snapping to it, and she's favoring her right side. So maybe she had a stroke. And I'm like, well, it's 12:30. I got to go fucking stream.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, I've always, like I said, it's a huge commitment.
Yeah. I mean,
which is really intense.
But it's you know, it's a lesson. And this podcast isn't about me. Podcast is about you. It's about us.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, you know,
yeah.
I think it's really, I think that's what brings people back, though, is the fact that, you know, like people like you are willing to be that open and connected with people. And, you know, I mean, I think that's what makes Twitch so unique and amazing, is that you actually are able, you know, I mean, what there's no TV show you can watch where you can have an emotional connection with the person on TV and have an actual emotional connection. Like, you can feel like you're having an emotional connection. You know, you can cry at a TV show, but like in Twitch, you can literally talk to the person and have a real connection with them, and then maybe you go meet them someday or talk to them, or have a chat with them in a DM, and really like, I mean, it's just that level of connection is
yeah.
There's no other media source that does that,
No, absolutely. And it's what's even, I mean, like even at the bare bones, like when you're you watch a streamer and like you see them just read what you typed.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this wild, like, whoa.
Yeah, you get a little endorphin, like, oh.
That's why like IRL streams are so nuts to me, right? Because like somebody in Tokyo will be like, BruceCooper, what's up, buddy? And I'm like,
yeah,
hell, dude. Like that's
crazy. It gives you like a little, it's a crazy little rush it gives you, and you're like, oh wow.
Well, it's cool because yeah,
go ahead.
And then like you start getting, you come back, and then they're like, hey, welcome back, and then this connection is developed where
totally
you and the streamer, like they recognize you, and then it just grows from there, and it sounds so weird to somebody who hasn't experienced it, like.
But yeah, it's so easy to trivialize it and just be like, oh, it's people playing, because I talk to people about it, and like, some people have heard enough to know that it's people watching people play video games, and they're just like, I don't understand what this is and why people do it, which is how I was, and so it's like I get both sides of it, but it's a very hard thing, I think, to explain, especially to like an older generation or someone who's has no connection to games or really like sort of internet chat life at all. It's very like, I mean, I've tried to explain to my parents a lot, and I think they're starting to come around to understanding it, but like it's taken a lot of conversations, because it's sort of like, what is this again that you're doing?
Well, and like I explained it to my dad. My dad loves watching like fishing shows.
Right.
And I'm like, Dad, imagine if you can ask that pro fisherman, like what kind of like lure he uses. Right. And I saw like the connection. He was like, well, he's like, I'd never ask him that. And my mom's like, shut up, Byron. Yes, you would. And it was like, so yeah, I mean, it's
so my parents are both therapists.
Okay.
And yeah, there's a whole nother nut to crack there. But so that was the way I finally, I think, made a connection with them, was sort of being like, this is like, people genuinely get comfort and consolation and help. I mean, it's not just people talking about video games and making dick jokes. Like it's people actually connect to each other, and like, there's people, especially, there's some people that like have real social anxiety, and like Twitch is a forum where they can come and participate in a social, in a community without extending themselves too far outside of their comfort zone.
Yeah.
Which may eventually help them to, become more comfortable and more social, or, whatever, or just be where they are, but feel connected. And so I think, like for me, it was like trying to find, which I think is sort of with everyone, it's like you have to figure out like what because it is so many things. It's like there are so many different ways into it. It's just understanding, someone else's perspective on it. So,
not to do a complete 180 here.
Let's do it.
Growing up with two parents who are like, what were you ever like? Did you ever
they ever analyze me?
My parents are the opposite, man. Like I could never talk to my dad about anxiety or like depression or anything like that. Like, did you have that relationship with your folks? Like, were you able to be like, Dad, I feel sad and I don't know why?
Yeah, I mean, it's all relative, I think, because because I grew up with it. I mean, yeah, definitely like communication's always been a big thing in my family. And it's a big thing for me, and I value it a lot. And so I think definitely like in that sense, like, I mean, I think as I got into my teenage years, it was sort of like, oh God, like stop analyzing things, like, I mean, they were not like super, like down my throat analyzing things either. Like, I think
your parents sound like they were incredible people, man.
They're great. No, I mean, I'm pretty fucking lucky, honestly, but
man. That's awesome.
Because I know it doesn't always, having therapist parents doesn't always mean like, oh, it's, everything's great. Like,
Oh, sure.
therapists are people too. They're not all well adjusted.
Totally. I've often wondered, like, and I've asked therapists, like, do you have anxiety? And they just laugh. Like,
oh,
yes.
yeah.
I'm a normal.
Most therapists are in therapy, They should be, at least. It's like, that's part of their craft.
Right. It'd be like, it's like, I'm a streamer, but I don't ever watch streams.
Yeah, exactly. It's totally it is. I don't play video game. I don't know anything about video games.
Yeah.
I play them on, but I don't know anything about them. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So no, I mean, I think, like I always say, like I feel like they had a very good idea of, the things that fuck kids up, and so they were pretty good to like tiptoe around a lot of that, and like like I would. But they were also very realistic with me, and like definitely were like, just like regular parents in that regard, like don't fuck up, or there's consequences and stuff like that. So
did you ever feel like your parents were never like just be wrong every now and then? Like,
oh no, it's not like they're perfect humans.
No. See, growing up, like my dad was never. I felt like my mom and dad, like my dad, I'd be like, I always wanted to like catch them saying something wrong,
right?
Because my dad was a logger and my mom worked at a bank. And my dad was wrong all the time. My mom was wrong all the time, but they never admit it. They did later on in life, There's a situation where we saw a car and it didn't have a back window. And I was like, Dad, that car does not have a back window. And it was at night. So the streetlights would reflect off of the trunk of the car and then onto the roof, but not on the back window. And I'm like, Dad, that car doesn't have a back window. And he was like, it had a back window. And like 6 months ago, he was like, do you remember that time with the car and the back window? He's like, I knew damn well it didn't have a back window, but I just couldn't admit that I was wrong. And I was like,
that's pretty amazing though, to like pull that back out. Like,
oh yeah, dude, happens all the time.
It's great. I love it. No, that's good though.
I feel like both my parents were psychiatrists. They would never be wrong, and that would drive me up the wall.
I guess life. What I remember getting driven up the wall by as a kid would be like, like if there was like there was like this kid that would like bully me at school,
Yeah.
And I would come home and just be like, God, that guy's such an asshole. Like, why is he always fucking with me? And then they would be like, well, he probably has a rough, something at home. It's not good. They would sort of start to justify it, be like, well, like his parents are probably, fighting or something, and then I'd be like, why can't he just be an asshole? Like, why can't he just be an asshole to me and you just tell me he's an asshole?
Right.
But, so that was the sort of thing I think when I was, whatever, middle school would irk me. But
yeah,
I mean, largely they were just, it was always like, as long as we stay, as long as the communication's open, like everything's good. It was like, if I started lying or, stuff like that, then it would change. But
yeah,
as long as we all stayed honest and open, it was, everything was fine.
And I'm sure you had your fair share of drama. And like you said, it's all relative.
Oh, I fought with my mom for, years. Like, just because that's what kids do, I think,
Be weird if you didn't.
Yeah, exactly. You gotta rebel against your parents no matter what. It just, they didn't give me a whole lot to rebel against, but I found things.
I remember one time I found this little pipe and like it had some black residue in it. It's just some, and I was like, I must have been in sophomore or freshman in high school, and I just put a match in there and a little bit of like smoke came out of my mouth and I had a panic attack. I stayed home sick, right? I had a fucking panic attack, and like I took like a hot dog and I went and brought it into the bathtub and laid in the bathtub fully clothed and like ate the raw like hot dog because I was like starving and there was nothing to eat. And I was like, if I eat, it'll go away. And I called my mom. I called my mom and I was like, Mom, I need you to come home. I smoked some weed and she came home and was like, this is so stupid. And like, she talks about that story every chance she gets. I never got in trouble for it.
Right.
It was just me doing something stupid.
Yeah, I think that's, that's like an important part of growing up, and it's nice. It's nice when your folks can just kind of be like, okay, like
she probably chewed my dad out for leaving it out, yeah. Whatever. We were never. It's legal in Oregon now We were
Right.
never, dude, my dad was work your butt off, work for the same company your whole life, don't do drugs. If I ever catch you doing any of that, yada, yada, yada. So like, but I knew, just like I smoke pot every now and then. And if I had a little kid running around, and it'd be hard for me to just, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
No,
the
my
type
folks were
of,
very much like, look, like I got the drug talk right before high school, and it was very much like, we know you're gonna do stuff,
yeah.
so just don't be an idiot. Like
And
don't get in a
call us if
car.
you
Like,
need us.
yeah, call if you need to get picked up or sleep wherever you're at. Don't, basically the big thing was like, just don't get in a car. Like,
Yeah.
and so that's kind of what happened. I would go drink with people in high school, and I'd stay at somebody's house, and they'd all have to lie to their parents, and I'd just come home and my mom would be like, you look pretty hungover, and I'd be like, yeah, I feel like shit right now, and and
Yeah.
we could talk about it, and it was fine, and they weren't going to punish me, and they could see I was feeling terrible and learning lessons there. So
Yeah.
it's sort of like, they didn't, like I said, they didn't really give me a whole lot to rebel against, so I never really like did anything crazy, because I just I didn't feel like I had to like push back on much.
And that's great, man. That's how I think honestly it should be.
Yeah, I mean, I
Like
think
kids are gonna
I
do
was
it
also a
anyway.
pretty like consequence driven kid. Like I was a pretty fearful kid for a lot of my life. So I think that was,
Right.
I don't know if that leniency works with everyone, but it worked with me because I was pretty self regulating, and like, I lived in fear of a lot of things for a long time. So
Yep.
it was easy for me to be like, well, I don't want that bad thing to happen to me, so I'm not going to
Yeah.
do this.
Yeah. I mean, I was always very fearful of harder drugs or police, or not police, but I never,
like getting caught or
like I was never gonna be so out of it that I couldn't pull myself back.
yeah,
You know,
exactly.
no doubt that's happened later on, but it's never been, it was never like, the first time I'm gonna drink a half a bottle of rum, like it was like, I'll take a shot. Oh man, this tastes like gasoline. Anyway,
Yeah.
one thing that I do a little bit more like back on the video game subject.
Yeah.
I've been asking these questions. I'm sure you have heard them, but do you remember the very first video game that you ever played?
I was trying to think. It was probably like, like Duck Hunt, or like one of the Mario, like,
A
Nintendo, like
classic.
whatever, one of the classic like Nintendo games. I think that's the first system I ever had exposure to. It was like there was like this whole family of that, like over the years, like babysat me when I was really little. Like they had like it was like two sisters and two brothers, like the sisters were older, the brothers were younger, and I think every one of them babysat me at one point, like from the time I was like an infant to like, whatever,
Couple of months ago.
whenever you stay. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Just the other week, but
Yeah.
but they had like a Nintendo in their basement, and so I remember playing, it was probably Duck Hunt or something like that. But
Dude,
then I feel like
with the
system
gun?
yeah, exactly, with
The
little
orange,
gun.
red, or gray gun.
It was like the gray. It was like the standard like two-tone gray with like a red trigger or something like that.
I want you to go through and watch it. Watch a Duck Hunt video on YouTube and just close your eyes and listen to the sounds. Unreal.
Yeah. No, I love that old. It's so good.
Yeah, it's so good. And like when you when you screw up, or when the dog like laughs at you, and then he like goes and then the music starts playing, you'll get a rush of nostalgia on like anything you've experienced, man. It's nuts.
Yeah.
The sounds. Nintendo has always been, in my opinion, so good at making, it's like they realize that eventually their stuff is going to be nostalgic, so they make it sound this way that when you get older you can't get enough of it. It's
I think that like 8-bit old video game music, just like there's just something to it that just like, even if it's not even a song from something, like if you just hear, it's like people now making music with that sort of like those tones, like they just instantly like trigger something for us.
Remember like the Battletoads, like you press pause and it would be like
yes.
It was like the really aggressive, like the kicking beat.
Yeah, it was like the kick drum sound,
yeah,
but it's just the same as the other 4 sounds
in the entire game. Yeah, for sure. What game are you most looking forward to?
You're gonna hate me because I'm gonna say Cyberpunk.
I'm not gonna hate you for that.
No,
that's
I know.
great. I'm worried
honestly,
for you.
I'm worried,
stressed out for you.
Honestly,
it's like they're like Keanu Reeves is here. I guess we're done.
Yeah, I don't know if the Keanu Reeves thing is like okay, like whatever. I'm worried because it's, from what I understand, it's like a first person shooter. Which
Cyberpunk 2077?
I think it's first person,
and
which
it's
is
single
like
player, right?
Right, but it's like the idea that like they've been making like third person, like fantasy games, and now they're doing like this first person sci-fi shooter. It's definitely like, I mean, it's a small thing, but I just like mechanics wise, like I'm curious to see how it all. I don't know. I love CD Projekt Red. I'm super hyped on it. Honestly, I just started playing Red Dead.
Oh yeah,
and I'm really excited to play a ton of that. So even though it's like not something that's coming out, like it's probably the thing I'm the most excited about right now.
Yesterday morning, for like a half an hour, I just went hunting.
Yeah.
And just like rode around and went hunting. I'm wanted in pretty much every county.
Yeah.
So I can't really go anywhere.
I saw how you play. I know what you do.
So I'm like, okay, well, I can't really be here. But
it's far too expensive for me to stay.
Yeah. My biggest fear with Cyberpunk 2077 is what's going to happen. This is what I worry about. It's going to come out. Everyone's going to crap on it. They're going to fix it a year and a half later, and it's going to be called No Man's Sky 2.0, and I'm going to fall in love with it, and I'm going to play it. Because that's what happened in No Man's Sky. I think that's what's going to happen. That's what's apparently happening.
That's what's going to happen with
I hope not.
Cyberpunk. Because I think that...
Look at Anthem. Remember Anthem?
Yeah, but like the difference
is... They're redoing it.
The difference is that Cyberpunk is like even though it's like open world... like it's Witcher. It's like a linear story.
But take the type of game out, completely out, and just it's this idea.
You think like mechanically it's going to be problematic, or
no? I'm just saying it's never going to live up to the hype that they're putting. The hype is the biggest. Maybe not anymore.
In that sense, in that No Man's Sky sense, totally. Yeah, I think the hype train is, and I don't remember like what the hype was like from Witcher 2 to Witcher 3. Because Witcher 2 was like not that, it was fun, like it was a good game, but it wasn't like, I don't know, like Witcher 3 is like still probably one of my favorite games of all time.
I feel like I haven't been seeing a lot of Cyberpunk's hype recently.
It's been quiet for a while. They had that big release with like the Keanu and the gameplay and that was like, boom boom, and they kind of alluded to like a release time ish, but they keep saying like we're not going to release it till it's ready. We're not going to release it till it's ready.
Well, and like what part of the problem with the No Man's Sky stuff early on is that it was on like Fallon, and then it was on Conan O'Brien, and then it was
I remember. I mean, I bought that game or I got it right as it came out. Like it was.
Yeah,
I was waiting. I was ready when it came out.
Dude, I've like 6 friends who I worked with at the time who took like 3 days off.
I believe it.
I remember getting texts being like, dude, this is boring. Like, what do you want to do tonight? Like, we have all this time off now and this game sucks.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's one thing one thing that Apex did so well.
Just like, out.
Amazing. I think I don't understand why more games aren't learning from that, because I mean, obviously they had something really good to back it up, but like I think that was the most brilliant marketing campaign ever. It just like boom, here it is. Like a little bit of whisper of they're making a Titanfall BR.
Yeah.
No, never mind.
That.
Bang.
I remember them talking about that. Yeah.
Titanfall BR. Everyone thought it was going to be like a Titanfall BR, and then it was like, wait, there's no mechs, and then it was just out. And it was free, and overnight it was like one of the most successful games ever.
Well, then they invested pretty much all of their advertising revenue in streamers to play it. So like that was a whole nother thing. Like Ninja got paid $1 million to play it for one day. Did you remember that? Do you remember that? So like that in itself is so brilliant because
Yeah.
if a company not only did they have Ninja playing it, right? But that was the least marketed part of that. It seems like everyone was talking about this company who paid somebody $1 million to play their game for one day. And that
Right.
just put the name of the game everywhere. It's not
Yeah.
even that Ninja was playing it.
It's just a person made $1 million playing a
Playing
video
this
game
game
for 8
one day.
hours.
Yeah. And like everyone, the Apex was associated with that whole thing. And it may not have started out as good publicity, but at the end of the day, like the game was really good.
Yeah. I mean, I think that any publicity is good publicity theory.
It was
generally holds up unless it's something really heinous.
It was crazy, man.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
I have a lot of respect for how they pulled that off because I think it really it just worked.
Yeah,
totally. It didn't work.
No,
and I agree that the cyberpunk thing is like just stop talking about it and then like we'll let's all be pleasantly surprised by what a great game it is instead of
hopefully that's happening because I haven't seen any hype. Like I didn't see any hype around it at TwitchCon.
Yeah, no, it's true. I haven't I follow all their stuff on Twitter and I haven't seen anything, so
that's good. I mean, good and bad.
It's either good or it means that like their whole engine just took a shit and they're like the building's on fire right now and they're trying to put it out.
Is there this is probably the thickest, hardest question of the night. What is your favorite game of all time? Like what if you had to go to an island and all you had was an internet connection and one game to play, what would it be?
That is hard. I mean,
there's no judgment. I'm not gonna judge you.
I'm trying to think because it's like the game that I've played the most would probably be, I mean, it probably still is gotta be like original Halo multiplayer.
Yeah.
Like I have played Hang 'em High with friends in high school. I mean, I have a group of friends from high school and we get together every Thanksgiving and pull out old Xboxes and do like a LAN party and play original Halo with those god awful giant controllers. And
you've probably been looking pretty forward to the.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. I definitely I want to play. I want to play that original Halo multiplayer on it with the mouse and keyboard and see just what it'll be fun. It'll be a fun nostalgic thing. And so that's probably the game. I mean, that's probably the game I've played the most and it like has the most sort of like seared impact on me. I mean, I say it all the time. DayZ is one of my favorite games of all time.
Yeah.
Even with all of its problems, I really feel like there is not another game out there like it. And
dude, it's in a great
my dream would be that
right
it
now.
Just keeps going forever. Like,
yeah.
That they just keep developing it and making it better. Like if DayZ looked as good as like Red Dead, like the environment, and the light and the water and everything.
Yeah.
And ran as smoothly, I mean,
it's not far off. It's not.
It's really not. And I think there's qualities to DayZ. There's moments in that game where you can take a pause and like look at a sunset and it's like, this looks perfect. Like it's nothing's out of place. It doesn't look pixelated. It doesn't look like a video game. It looks like a photograph or like, or a video of the woods, or something or whatever. And it's really, I don't know, that game just, it's really special. It's the reason I built a computer. It's probably the main, it's the path that got me to streaming.
Yeah.
So I would say that's probably the most, that Halo and DayZ are the most important games in my life.
Yeah. Cool. It's great. Those great answers. I mean, DayZ is one of those games. DayZ taught me a lot about like allowing my brain to become immersed in something that's not technically real,
Totally.
Like I think I get a lot of, and those are moments that keep me playing games, and things that I really love going back and watching past videos or looking at old screenshots, and like memories that you have in your life, you know, and like Daisy through all of its quirkiness and its clunkiness and its weird controls and all of the things that we
I
now
get why
consider
everyone
muscle
hates
memory.
it, or like
But
I
those
totally
are all
understand the frustrations.
All of those things are the same things that make it so nostalgic, or make it so everyone's got so many memories tied to it.
Yeah, it's
God,
built so many people's careers, and
yeah, for sure. It's such a great game.
Yeah, I think it's always important to just, I don't know. That one's just got a special place for me.
Yeah, for sure.
Well,
Well,
I'll always play that game.
we are at our hour.
All right. Well, that went quick.
Yeah. I'll probably go back for like a third season and talk to some people that I talked to before and do like a couple hours each time. So if you're interested, let me know.
Yeah, for sure. This is fun.
Yeah. So again, where can we find you? Twitch.tv/
ActualDangs and ActualDangs on Twitter.
Dude, you lucked out with those same names, man.
Oof, I know.
It's a pretty TV weird one to one of them. And, well,
yeah,
cool.
At least yours is like a name, so right. It's the odds out there.
Right. It's also the name of like a football player and then another guy in sports.
Oh yeah, and then you're screwed.
Dude, I had a hell of a time on Instagram once. Some guy kept messaging me like, "When's your interview with the Southern Conference leader?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about, bro?" And it was just like, dude, this guy does not know how to use Instagram, and like just kept messaging me.
Not connecting the dots here.
He's like, you do the thing with the streams, like you're the sports guy. And I'm like, no.
Do the sports.
Definitely. I should have just shot some bullshit.
Yeah.
Anyway, dude, it was so good having you on. Thank you so much for being here, man. I really, really appreciate it. I'm sorry for all the issues we had earlier, but it makes for a good story.
Yeah, it's how it all works. Everything always breaks.
I hope this was recorded correctly. I'll let you know. We may be doing another one of these.
That'll be fun. This will be in the lost tapes.
Yeah, the lost tapes. Yeah. Oh, all right, man. Thank you. Stick around. And we'll chat after the recording. Thank you so much for listening. I really, really appreciate it. Make sure you go check out ActualDangs, twitch.tv /ActualDangs, twitter.com/ActualDangs. ActualDangs. And thank you so much for listening. Thank you for the support. I appreciate it very, very much. Keep an eye out, or an ear out, or an ear to the ground, or whatever, for more of these. We'll be coming out with a couple per week. And yeah, thanks again. I will see you on the next one. Take care of yourselves. Be good to one another. Treat each other right. And I'll catch you later.